Nikola Jokic, 5-time All-Star, 5-time All NBA member, 2-time MVP, and now added to his resume, a 1-time NBA champion with a Finals MVP added to his belt. Throughout his journey in the NBA, all he has received is criticism and doubt from NBA fans and media alike due to his unconventional game that doesn't fit in the modern-day NBA style and his non-athletic and non-imposing build on the court. But after winning the Larry O'Brien Trophy and taking the Finals MVP in one of the most dominant fashions we've ever seen in the playoffs and in the finals as a player, I think it's time to talk about Nikola Jokic's entire 2023 NBA season, talk about the narratives that was thrown at him, talk about the achievements he's earned, and most importantly, show how he proved the entire NBA world wrong about him not being a top 5 NBA player, a championship level leader, and not even being the best center in the NBA. Because as someone who enjoyed watching the European-centered offense he leads and watching the ups and downs of the Nuggets going through the last couple of years, I am happy to see Jokic finally reach the pinnacle of basketball as an NBA player and now as a one-time champion, and finally see people talk about him on the mainstream. But before we start, if you want to see more videos like these, then be sure to like the video, the social report, and subscribe to be notified when new videos come out. But as usual, this will be a long one, but you already know who it is. Roll it!
3, 2, 1.
Weights in the weight room, so he stitched up in the left hand doing all this.
But before we get into this video is brought to you by Manscaped.com, the global men's lifestyle brand that's trusted by over 8 million men worldwide for their trimmers, liquid formulations, and premium boxers. In fact, they sent me their Performance Package 4.0 to show you how it is changing the game in men's grooming and hygiene. Like their Lawnmower 4.0 electric trimmer that features a cutting-edge ceramic blade designed to reduce grooming accidents and has a 4,000 kilowatt LED spotlight for when you need a more precise shave. And with it being waterproof and coming with a cordless rechargeable battery, it is made for you to take on the go and have zero hassle even in the shower. But if you want to take things to the next level with your grooming, there is also the Weed Whacker 2.0 with their 7,000 RPM battery and improved steel blade system to better whack your weeds and help reduce nicks and snags when using it. Also included in their kit are the Crop Preserver Ball Deodorant and the Crop Reviver Ball Toner Spray, perfect for all-day body odor protection. And finally, they are now throwing in 2 free gifts in their Performance Package 2.0 with their anti-chafing boxers in their Shed Travel bag when you need to take things on the go. And you can take advantage of this amazing deal full of all these essentials for your grooming game by going to Manscaped.com today and getting a 20% off offer plus free international shipping when you use promo code Alvini at checkout. That's 20% off plus free shipping with promo code Alvini at Manscaped.com. And thanks again for Manscaped for sponsoring this video, and let's get back into it. After making the conference finals in the bubble for the first time and losing to the Lakers in 5 games as Jokic went to average 24 points, 9 rebounds, and 5 assists throughout the entire playoffs, the Nuggets were looking to make it back, if not farther, to the finals through the backs of Jokic in his second ever playoff appearance and Jamal Murray, who seemed to overshadow Jokic a bit due to his scoring outburst, scoring 50 points twice in the first round against Utah, 42 in Game 7 against the Clippers, and outscoring Jokic in their entire series against the Lakers. But as we all know, their road back to the finals would be delayed for 2 years due to the brutal injury that happened to Jamal Murray while the Nuggets were on a roll as a team, going 34-19 until they faced the Golden State Warriors on April the 12th, 2021, where Jamal Murray went up for a layup and tore his ACL.
For 7-point game under a minute to go. Murray got hit, and this is going to be Golden State ball. And Murray's down and hurt. Oh my goodness. Oh no.
There has been many freak injuries and accidents in the sport of basketball, but what happened to Jamal Murray wasn't even a freak accident. It was just an unfortunate circumstance as he didn't have anywhere contact on anyone going up. His body kind of just gave up mid-sequence and tore his ACL, and the revenge tour that was working up came to a screeching halt because of it.
Denver, 4th in the West. Some terrible news. Jamal Murray tore his ACL. The team just tweeting this out. He will be out indefinitely. Stephen A., I'll start with you. Kendrick Perkins back here with us. What does this mean for Denver?
Well, I got to tell you, first thing, I was watching the game last night, start to finish, because I was watching that show Steph Curry was putting on. And I'm such a fan of Jamal Murray. I mean, he's such an unsung hero in the game of basketball. This brother shows up and shows out. Averaged 26.5 points a game in the postseason last year. Shoot 40% from three-point range this year. The brother's a marksman. He can flat out ball, and my heart goes out to him. I'm just hoping and praying that he gets better, because the game of basketball is better when he's on the court. Having said all of that, my initial reaction is that it's over. Denver's chances of getting to the finals are ruined.
But Nikola Jokic would still end up winning one of his first of 2 MVPs off this season, boosting his numbers from the year before, shooting at a more efficient clip, and averaging the most assists he has ever had in his career. A literal all-around offensive threat and one of the best offensive talents we've ever seen. But as the playoffs came around with no Jamal Murray, it came down to 6 games to Portland, where Jokic would average 33 points in that series. But the next round, they faced the surging Phoenix Suns, who were fully healthy and one of the best offensive teams in the league, who torched the Nuggets in 4 very convincing games, winning by an average of 15 points and allowing the Suns to have their entire starting lineup score over 10 points a game, with Chris Paul and Devin Booker headlining the series with 25 points each per game in that series. But none of this could be blamed on Jokic. He's without his second best player and having to lead his team with very little offensive weapons around him. Even Will Barton, who served as the 4th leading scorer on the team, was out for most of the playoffs. So that just makes things even harder than it needed to be. But guess what? No excuses for the MVP, losing in such embarrassing fashion to the eventual finals-bound Suns. But everyone around the league knew why. The Nuggets were given a bad hand with the injury bug, but if you thought that was bad, next year was even worse. No Jamal Murray the entire season, and now Michael Porter Jr. was out for the entire season. So there goes your 2nd leading scorer and your 3rd option gone for the entire season. But Jokic was still able to somehow, some way drag this team to 48 wins and avoiding the play-in with the 6th spot, once again leveling up as a player. Career high in points, career high in rebounds, while almost leading the league in them, and was top 10 in assists in the league. So now once again he is given the MVP due to his otherworldly leadership and carrying the abilities of a team that would have been competing for the 1st overall pick without him. But then again, his team is without Jamal Murray and MPJ for the entire year. But after getting nearly swept by the eventual champions in the Golden State Warriors in the 1st round, the talks went right back to Jokic. Why did we even give him the MVP in the first place? Jokic didn't deserve the MVP. Jokic isn't even the best center in the league, among many other things. But now going into the 2022-23 season with a fully healthy Nuggets team, we finally get to see how Nikola Jokic finally proves to the NBA, its fans, the media, everyone wrong in one simple season.
The buzzer letting everybody know, you know what? I am back. We finally have the Nuggets big 3 together on the court. This team, you guys remember, they won 48 games last season, and that was just with Joker. So I want to bring Zach back into this discussion here. What are your expectations for them now with everybody back, Zach?
To be among the 5 or 6 best teams in the NBA and compete for the championship, period. They were in the conference finals in 2020. I see no reason other than the great competition around them that they shouldn't be right back there this year. Jamal Murray and Nikola Jokic, one of the most beautiful 2-man games in the league, and big for Denver. With Jamal Murray back, Jokic doesn't have to do absolutely everything on offense and be exhausted by the time they get to the playoffs in April and May. He can offload some of that to Murray. Michael Porter Jr., if healthy's a perfect fit. Kentavious Caldwell-Pope and Bruce Brown.
Yes.
Keep an eye on those guys. Wing defense, switchability, cutting. The Nuggets have a lot of versatility. They can play 4 really good defenders around Jokic if need be. Look, they have everything they need. This is the best team of the Jokic era. They are fully loaded to make a championship run. People don't think of them as a championship level team. They were dominant after they acquired Aaron Gordon before Jamal Murray got hurt 2 years ago. I think they're right at the top of the league in that same mix with Clippers.
You think about Jamal Murray, I mean, this is what we have been missing for the past 2 years. Nearly 40%, 10th in the NBA in 3 points off the dribble. So their offense that already was lethal with the Joker, who's pretty much a triple-double, now just gets even better with Murray back. And then you have the icing on the cake, Porter Jr.
Love it.
The Nuggets are coming. The Nuggets are coming, and it's going to be fun to watch.
It's going to be so much fun to watch, and you called them a potential Western contender.
Oh, yeah.
So let's bring Kendrick Perkins back into the conversation, because, Perk, both Janae and I have said on NBA Today how dangerous the Clippers are as a threat to the Warriors in the West. Where do you put the Nuggets here?
Well, I got them at number 3. I think, you know, the way that this roster is constructed, and shout out to the front office of the Denver Nuggets. I mean, when you go out and look at the personnel that they have, They added Contavious Caldwell-Pope.
Yep.
You remember Aaron Gordon is there. You have Ish Smith that they added to the roster along with, you still have Jeff Green, and I'm expecting big things out of Bones Highland. And when you have Jokic, the two-time MVP, the best passing big man that this game has ever seen, now all of a sudden you add those pieces around them that are great at cutting. And let me not forget a guy, Bruce Brown Jr., that they acquired, that they got in the offseason as well. And they coached by Michael Malone. We know how they're bought in on the defensive side of things. This roster is loaded, and it's one of the best rosters in the NBA.
Yeah.
And I got them finishing around number 2 or number 3, right up there with the Clippers and the...
So now we are met with the beginning of the 2023 NBA season, with a lot of hype for the Denver Nuggets from the media and fans alike. After 2 early exits that the Nuggets couldn't control due to injuries, the Nuggets are now fully healthy, with Jamal Murray coming back off a torn ACL, which is one of the few injuries in basketball that can either be a slow end to a player's career or a complete downfall immediately. And MPJ coming off his 3rd back injury, you finally had the Nuggets back at full capacity to begin the season for the first time in 2 long, agonizing years, giving Nikola Jokic more room to operate and do what he does best. Confused defense is becoming a matchup nightmare and make absolutely crazy passes and stat lines on a near game-to-game basis. And you knew that he was going to do great things with his fully healthy squad when he beat the defending champions Golden State Warriors in the 2nd game of the season, the same team that knocked him out in the 1st round of last year with a 26-12 and 10 triple-double. But as the season developed, with the Nuggets officially getting the 1st seed in the Western Conference due to the collapse of the New Orleans Pelicans and the Memphis Grizzlies on December 20th, 2022, the talks around the league became a whole lot different for Jokic and the Nuggets real quick. We already seen Jokic topple the MVP rankings week by week, and Jokic was flirting with history by being literal decimal points away from averaging a triple-double and becoming the first center to ever do it.
They're quietly sitting in the 2 seed in the West. They lead the conference in both field goal and 3-point percentage. So, Zach, I'm curious, could this be the Nuggets' year?
Of course it could be the Nuggets year. That was obvious coming in, as long as Michael Porter Jr. and Jamal Murray could stay healthy. And Michael Porter Jr. has been out a little bit here and regain their sort of all-star, almost all-star form. Jamal Murray has looked good. Michael Porter has looked good until recently. And hey, look, they got the number 3 offense in the NBA. Bruce Brown has been everything they could have wanted, shooting 40% on threes, defending the hell out of everyone. Aaron Gordon, sneaky, under the radar, great season, shooting almost 70% on 2s. And you may be tired of him. You may have voter fatigue. Get ready for Nikola Jokic to jump back into the MVP race. 23, 10, and 9, aka almost a triple-double on 63% shooting. 63. And the stat of the year, Denver is plus 174 points total with Jokic on the floor and minus 124 when he's on the bench. That doesn't even make sense. He's going to be in the MVP race again. You may be tired of it. You may be bored with it. Keep an eye on the Nuggets. They are.
And while the backs of the media were finally behind Jokic as he kept serving up impossible stat line after impossible stat line, kept maintaining the best record in the NBA and beating some of the best players in the NBA night by night with his fully healthy team, you saw some of the most support ever given to Jokic, and he absolutely deserved it, especially when he gave the NBA faithful one of the best Christmas Day games we have ever seen against the Phoenix Suns. On December 25th, 2022, Christmas Day, the Denver Nuggets were facing off against the Phoenix Suns, a rematch of the Western Conference 2nd round from a few years ago, where Jokic was knocked out in 4 humiliating games due to his partner in crime, Jamal Murray, being out, and now we are blessed with a rematch of this matchup by the NBA as a nightcap. And as we all know, this game did not disappoint. A week earlier on the 18th though, Jokic and the Nuggets went against the Hornets and had a very back and forth game with them, having to come back down 12 at one point, and they themselves almost blowing a 16-point lead in the 4th quarter. But overall, the story of the game was Jokic putting up the stat line of the year: 40 points, 27 rebounds, and 10 assists, an absolutely unheard of stat line that had everyone raving. But a week later against the Suns, Jokic had to pull off a similar performance for the win with 41 points, 15 assists and 15 rebounds, the most points ever scored in a triple-double on Christmas Day, giving the game-tying assist to Jamal Murray with 11 seconds left in regulation and scoring 22 points in the second half alone, with 16 of them coming in the third while they had to come back down from a 12-point deficit. The game that night was also highlighted by the top-tier play from Jokic and Jamal Murray, who scored 14th in the fourth quarter and went 4 of 6 from 3, while also showing us a preview of what could possibly potentially be the conference finals.
Nikola Jokic. 41 points, 15 rebounds, 15 assists. Only the third player ever to put up that stat line in a triple-double, joining Oscar Robertson and James Harden. Scored or assisted on 78 of the 128 Nuggets points. And Perk, I'm getting major Larry Bird vibes last night. He had the fake pass over the head on his defender for an assist, an over-the-head pass to Aaron Gordon on the cut. The offensive rebound follow put back in the second half. And by the way, Larry Bird, last player to win 3 straight MVPs. And here we are on December 26, 40% of the way through the regular season. Nikola Jokic, 25, 11, and 9. Denver in first place. And he's first or second in nearly every advanced statistic.
So what else does Jokic have to prove to the NBA? He had some of the most dominant stats we have ever seen since Wilt Chamberlain as a center, averaging a near triple-double, and is creating a stat line of the season candidate every month. And as he continues to topple the NBA's MVP rankings, the thought of Jokic becoming the first 3-time MVP since Larry Bird in the 80s seemed more and more like a reality. And people just kind of accepted it. There was no way you could deny it at the time. Now you can argue his MVP cases in the last few seasons could be a tad bit different depending on your stance on what an MVP is, but this year in particular should be a clear and cut case, playing his best basketball in his career. And this is only December, but as we can skip through January due to Jokic missing a little chunk of the month, February is where narratives of Jokic starts to shift ever so slightly, becoming an all-star starter and voted in for the 5th time. You'd think all the talks from here on out would be outwardly positive, especially with the Nuggets having a 6-game advantage over the Memphis Grizzlies for the first seed and the best record in the NBA in general. But as he reached a certain achievement on February 28th, 2023, the narrative slightly shifted towards Jokic's 3rd straight MVP title and went to someone else in particular. On that day, I'm sure a lot of you know it, was the day Nikola Jokic reached his 100th career triple-double against the Houston Rockets with a very modest 14 points, 11 rebounds, and 10 assists. With that 100th triple-double, he is now in a very exclusive club with LeBron James, Jason Kidd, Oscar Robertson, Magic Johnson, and of course, Russell Westbrook, who he is only 98 behind for the record, which sounds like a lot, but with Russ getting older and Jokic only being 28, he can damn well surpass that and get well into the 200s at the end of his career. But what was supposed to be a celebration of an all-time and basically impossible achievement got somehow turned into a negative.
I come on here every single time and I ask, what is the criteria for the MVP and how the goalposts move? I'm asking these questions for a reason. And so when I look at JJ and I hear him talk, because he's so big in analytics and he's a historian when it comes down to diving in deep and going back into history and talking about the evolution of the game, why didn't he never bring up this in particular subject? When it comes down to guys winning MVP since 1990, it's only 3 guys that won the MVP that wasn't top 10 in scoring. Do you know who those 3 guys were?
Who were they?
Steve Nash, Jokic, and Dirk Nowitzki. Now,
Dirk Nowitzki.
what do those guys have in common? I'll let it sit there and marinate. You think about it. Now, here's the thing when it comes down to the MVP conversation and why I say the goalpost move. It's because it was during the time in 2006 when Steve Nash won his 2nd MVP, when he had a roster full, didn't have the best record in the league. And Kobe Bryant was averaging 31. And if you go and look at that 2006 roster that Kobe was playing with, which they finished number 7 in the Western Conference, which I don't understand how he did that with that team he had. No disrespect to those players, but it is what it is. How was he not winning it? Leading the league in scoring that year. So when it comes down to moving the goalposts for certain individuals to win it, again, is it Uchiwali or is it One Mike? Like, what song are we actually dancing to right now? Why is this subject not brought up? What do those 3 guys have in common when they won the MVP for us, Steve Nash, Dirk Nowitzki, and Jokic. That wasn't top 10 in scoring. We moved the goalpost so much. So don't come giving me, oh, they're the number 1 seed this year in the Western Conference, so he's averaging triple-double. That's why he should be the clear-cut favorite. They wasn't the number 1 seed last year. They was actually the number 6 seed. One seed from being in the play-in tournament. So that's my whole thing. Is like, why we move the goalposts for certain people, and then for others, we...
A very common talking point from Kendrick Perkins after the new year towards the Jokic craze was the criticism that Jokic has been stat padding his triple-doubles and doing it for the notoriety of just having a triple-double. And his defense towards this that everybody does it when they are near an accomplishment, from as little as himself going after a field goal percentage record from the Celtics, from as big as Jokic getting near triple-doubles and gunning for whatever stat he needs to finally achieve it. And it's been a big thing from his yammering that point in the media and for others to disagree.
When I watch the games, I'm watching Jokic pass the ball, and I'm watching his guys catch and shoot, no hesitation, good or bad shot. And let me tell you one thing. It goes on, conversations goes on in that locker room, and players know what their stats are.
Are you sitting here and saying Nikola Jokic is having his numbers padded? Is that what you're saying?
You heard what the hell I said. I said he had 8 games where he had single-digit shot attempts. And for a while, it was 9.5 assists he was averaging, 9.8. And all of a sudden, I saw those shot attempts and his points go down, and I started to see his assists go up.
I'll be quick.
Okay, that was a great follow-up by Stephen A. And then it was, you heard what the hell I said.
Oh, no,
So,
Perk.
Jay, do you agree with Perk on the idea that Jokic is stat padding?
Love Perk. I strongly disagree with this. And look, I've never been Nikola Jokic's teammate. If you ask anyone that's been around him, heck, I did it on Sunday night with Michael Malone. Nikola Jokic does not care about stats, does not care about averaging a triple-double. Nikola Jokic, I hate to tell everyone, doesn't care about winning an MVP. He cares about winning a championship. The idea that he's stat padding. Coach Malone, this is how he described the game. This is how he described Nikola Jokic's game. He doesn't fight the game. He just makes the right play every time. He compared his basketball IQ to LeBron. This is not a guy that cares about stat padding, Perk. And the best argument I can make of why this is such a ludicrous statement, they're 23-0 when he has a triple-double. Going back to last year, they've won 28 games in a row when he has a triple-double. If we're going to make up narratives about players, like, I know Perk is on this Joel Embiid's the MVP rant. I know he's on this thing. But, like, let's not make up a narrative about a player that is just so unbased in reality. Perk, I love you, but no.
Nikola, what does 100 triple doubles mean to you?
I mean, when you stat padding, it's easy, so.
You heard that, right? You heard the stat padding stuff out there.
Yes, of course. I mean, it's true.
What's your reaction to it?
It's true.
So is that why you went up and rebounded the ball 5 times on that one play to score?
No, he blocked me on the first time, and I grab it and I just miss it.
Yeah.
Now, I already talked about the entirety of this debate on a separate video on my channel, so I really mean it when I say, if you want to hear my entire thoughts on this issue, I really suggest you watch that video. It should be on your screen and in the card in the corner. But near the end of the season, the talks about Joel Embiid deserving his first ever regular season MVP became a whole lot stronger than anyone would have expected. Embiid was leading the NBA in scoring for the 2nd straight season, toppling his last year average and doing it on even better efficiency from the field. His physical scoring dominance was much more visible to the eye of the NBA viewers out there, and some people were just straight tired of Jokic winning MVPs, which will happen. Voter fatigue is a real thing, but it's still very unfortunate that it had to be the case. But Kendrick Perkins led the train for the Embiid for MVP narrative that started to plague the league, and by plaguing the league, I mean really taking over the airwaves of the NBA media.
Joel Embiid, he may have just clinched the MVP award last night, at least according to Caesar Sportsbook. He's now the overwhelming favorite to win it all at -750, and then you see Nikola Jokic and Giannis, they're both tied for 2nd. So his teammates, Doc Rivers, Joel Embiid, they're all doing the Vince Carter. They're saying it's over on this one. But you guys have heard what Doc has to say. Do you think, Ramona, it's over?
I think that was the game everybody was looking for from Joel Embiid to give them a reason to vote for him. I think people are looking for reasons to vote for Embiid this year in the sense that Jokic has 2 MVPs, Giannis has 2 MVPs. After the other game the other night, I thought Giannis really played his way back into that first place conversation, not just in the top 3. But when you go out and get 52 points, and they needed all 52 of those points. This is the second time this year he scored more than half of his team's points. His team scored 103. He had 52 of them,
which is insane.
Insane. And the last time they played Boston, when they did have Jaylen Brown, when they did have more of their players, came down to a buzzer beater. And so this is going to probably be your second round matchup. And I think Joel in this game gave you that game. If you're a voter that's on the fence, you're looking for reasons to vote for him, gave you that 52-point game that you can feel good about.
I think that's tough, Perk, because when you look and say, like, hey, these guys are all so close, we're going to just give it to the best record, I think the Bucks are the most complete team. And that's Stephen A's point. Like, these other candidates, Jokic and Embiid, they're the ones that have shouldered a lot of the load. We've seen what the Bucks look like without Giannis. Nonetheless, like, it's a safe choice either way you go, Giannis or Embiid, but my choice is similar to Stephen A's. I believe it's Joel Embiid, just because this guy has been top 2 in the league for the past 3 years, but this is his year. I mean, he found a problem in his paint production, meaning he was getting doubled left, right, and center. Their offense was a little stagnant. How are they going to fix it? Guess what? He started living at the free throw line, and what happened? We're seeing a center lead the league in scoring for the 2nd straight year. This is not to, throw tomatoes at Jokic or Embiid because Jokic or Giannis, just because they're having remarkable seasons. I mean, a triple-double, and then also Giannis having a career high. But if you look at the value that Joel Embiid brings, I look at both ends of the floor. I know Giannis is in that category as well, but Joel, I feel like the narrative, as Stephen A said, he's been consistently dominant, and he's also had those show-stopping performances, and that 52-point was like, hey, y'all, remember, the vote is for me.
But the final strike to the Embiid for MVP stance happened late in the season in the last full month of the regular season, March. In the month of March, the Denver Nuggets went 7-7 and had really embarrassing losses in that month. Losing to Chicago by 21, losing to Toronto by 15, losing to the Pelicans by 19, and most embarrassingly was losing to the Houston Rockets, one of the worst teams in the NBA, by 21, and it was headlined by Jokic only scoring 14 points and getting outdone by second-year center Alperen Sengun. And on the other side of the conference, in their 4th to last game, Joel Embiid made a statement to the NBA and the Boston Celtics in general, scoring a near season high 52 points on the Boston Celtics. And to many people, that was the straw that broke the camel's back, as the Nuggets struggled their way to the postseason, with them having a record of 9-10, while Embiid was doing his thing, getting more scoring bursts every game. The NBA media once again sided with Embiid being the official front runner for MVP, but those conversations don't matter anymore. In the first season back with Jamal Murray and MPJ being fully healthy, Jokic and the Nuggets ended the season with a 53-29 record, leading the Western Conference and having home court advantage throughout the entire Western Conference playoffs. And for Jokic, well, he did a lot, averaging 24 points a game on 63% shooting from the field, grabbed 11 boards a game, and had a career year playmaking wise, throwing 9.8 dimes a game, being literally so close to being the first ever center to average a triple-double. But no matter, his efficiency as a scorer was otherworldly, and his season was compared to that of Wilt Chamberlain, owning the 5th highest true shooting season in NBA history, literally unstoppable as a player. But with all that out of the way and the play-in tournament concluding, we officially have the Western Conference bracket finalized, and the playoffs can finally begin for Nikola Jokic and the Denver Nuggets.
As of right this moment, in your opinion, who is going to win the Western Conference?
What happened?
Well, here's the deal. Will Bond, Jalen, Greeny. I want him to tell y'all.
Yeah.
The list is fluid. Okay, so let's make sure we keep that in mind.
Yeah.
For the moment, I'm going to go with the Golden State Warriors.
Ooh.
I'm going to go with the Splash Brothers, the greatest shooting backcourt in the history of basketball. I'm going to look at Sacramento's defense being suspect, and the fact that that defense is suspect, Andrew Wiggins will be able to get into his groove quicker than he would be able to get into against a more defensive-minded team. I think that ultimately helps them along the way as the playoffs progress, along with their experience with Draymond and Looney. I'm going to go with the Golden State Warriors for the moment, but again, the list is fluid.
That's one vote for Golden State. Michael Wilbon, who's winning the West?
Well,
you can see where I'm sitting, of course, here in Arizona, in Scottsdale. I got some javelina, I got some coyotes, maybe a mountain lion or two, waiting for Stephen A to get out here. He loves to just, explore in a golf cart where he's out with nature and the animals.
Never.
And I think we're going to be here. Look, I'm not going to argue against the Golden State Warriors. I'm just not going to argue against that. There's no arguing against that. I'm going to argue for the Phoenix Suns. And I think the key here is Ayton. DeAndre Ayton and how the other guys, the other Hall of Famers, Mr. Durant, Mr. Booker, and Mr. Chris Paul, look, they're going to use their exceptional basketball IQs, not just to really get comfortable with each other because they haven't even played a dozen games together yet, but also how to bring Ayton along. I think we're going to see that happen successfully, slowly. There'll be some bumps in the road, but I'll take the Suns to still represent the Western Conference in the finals.
Suns, Warriors, Jalen says.
I'm going with the Suns as well. The two most disappointing teams in last year's playoffs were the Nets getting swept by the Celtics and the Suns losing to the Mavs. So it makes us forget that the Suns were in the finals 2 years ago, and they were the #1 seed last year.
That's
and
right.
They just added who Stephen A calls the best player in the game, and Kevin Durant. Their half-court offense is going to be unguardable. I'm saying the Phoenix Suns are going to win the West.
They open with the Clippers over the weekend.
Going into the NBA playoffs, the big talking heads at ESPN still want to give the Denver Nuggets their flowers as a team and believing in them to go to the NBA Finals. However, Jalen Rose made the point that the Suns made the Finals 2 years ago and had the pedigree to do it again with newly traded acquisition Kevin Durant. But let it also be known that the Nuggets made it to the conference finals the last time they had a fully healthy core for the playoffs, and how they weren't even in that form in the last two postseasons. There's been headlined by Jokic basically fighting an uphill battle the entire time and losing due to it. But as we open the 2023 NBA playoffs for the Nuggets, we are introduced to the bracket that starts them off against the Minnesota Timberwolves with former DPOY winner Rudy Gobert, all-star center, or I guess now power forward, Karl Anthony Towns, and surging star Anthony Edwards. Now, to their credit, the experts at ESPN did give Denver their respect as a team against the Timberwolves of all teams, with them mostly saying that they'd be winning in 5 or 6 games before the series even started. And game 1 was a simple showing of how the usual 1 versus 8 matchup goes, with a 109-80 win with an entire team effort from the Nuggets, and that would be the entirety of the series, winning by 9 in game 2 off of Jamal Murray's 41 points, and game 3 by 9 again from Nikola Jokic triple-double and Michael Porter's 25. But with game 4 coming around for the potential sweep in Minnesota, there was a tiny hiccup and unfortunate trend beginning to start here. With Jamal Murray struggling from the field in game 4, shooting 8 of 21, Jokic had to do a lot of the heavy lifting offensively, which ended with him scoring 43 points that night. But before he got to that 43, the Nuggets were playing from behind for most of the game, and by at most being down 12 points with 6 minutes left in the fourth quarter. But through Jokic scoring 7 in that last 12-point comeback and assisting on 2 3-pointers to Michael Porter Jr., the Nuggets found themselves only 1 point down with 45 seconds left. And with Michael Porter Jr. making a clutch play blocking Rudy Gobert with 33 seconds left, the Nuggets have the opportunity to sweep the 8th-seeded Timberwolves and face off against either the Suns or the Clippers in the next round. However, it was most likely going to be the Suns. As a Clippers fan, it still pains me. Nikola Jokic gets the ball and draws the foul on Karl Anthony Towns for the potential game winner. However, he misses the first free throw, which meant the best they could get was overtime. But as he hits the second free throw, the game does go into overtime off of a missed game-winning shot from Anthony Edwards, and the Nuggets would lose against the Timberwolves. But as the excitement of the Wolves stealing game for the Nuggets began, the thoughts of a potential 3-0 comeback was shut down immediately with a 3-point win in game 5, where once again the Nuggets were behind most of the game and moved on to the second round off the combined efforts of a 28, 17, and 12 triple-double from Jokic and a 35-point masterclass from Jamal Murray. But as the dust settled from that game, they now had to focus on a new enemy waiting for them in the next round, the Phoenix Suns.
Devin Booker, he stole the show in Phoenix's first-round series win over the Clippers. But next, the top-seeded Nuggets. And these two teams, they meet in the postseason for the second time in the last 3 years. The Suns, they are favored in this matchup. And Devin Booker and Kevin Durant, they averaged over 65 points per game, Zach, in the first round. But Jamal Murray, Nikola Jokic, we know their two-man game is clicking. So what do you think is going to be the key to this series?
Oh, man, what a series. Don't overlook this series paying attention to maybe Lakers, Warriors, Sixers, Celtics, all that. The star power in this series is incredible. And to me, it starts with how does Denver defend this Phoenix pick and roll attack with three of the greatest pull-up shooters in the history of the league all on one team. You can't drop back against them because they will rain fire all over you and shoot you right out of the gym. Do you blitz them? Do you come up to the level of the screen? That's what Nikola Jokic likes to do. Phoenix is starting to catch a rhythm on offense. Can they pass and drive around that Denver defense when they play like that? I think it's a fascinating chess match on that end of the floor. And then how does anybody deal with Nikola Jokic in the post, orchestrating and all of that? Big challenge for DeAndre Ayton.
You're still on the Nuggets over the Suns, even though KD really hasn't imposed himself yet and they just got rid of the Clippers.
I am. Now, look, there are going to be some questions that Coach Malone and company are going to have to answer, in particular for Jokic. What do the Suns do extremely well? They dice you up in ball screens. That's been a question around the Joker for a long time, how he handles pick and rolls, right? You obviously see KD, Devin Booker get to their midi. Key and I were talking about this morning. CP3 he has that old man game at the park. He just gets to his spots, and you can't help it. He just gets it done. That's going to be a question. But still, at the end of the day, I think the Nuggets are a better team. I question the durability of the superstars for Phoenix and also question the minute.
Now, a lot of people had absolutely zero idea what to make of this series. On one hand, you had the Suns who low-key got exposed in their matchup against the Clippers, where they showed how their lack of depth as a team could be the death of them in the playoffs, with Devin Booker and Kevin Durant providing legit over 50% of the offense, and you never knew what to expect from anybody else. While for the Nuggets, you still had everyone still trying to get behind media-wise and fans alike, the Nuggets being back in top form, especially with playoff Jamal Murray being back as the playoff riser he is. According to the ESPN experts, however, the Suns were predicted to beat the Nuggets by a poll of 13-4. The heavy underdog by the eyes of ESPN, and according to Vegas, it was the exact same thing. The Suns were the favorites off of superstar power alone. In the playoffs, though, the usual rule of thumb is that superpowers reign supreme over all issues, as we've seen over the years, where all the usual talks gets absolutely thrown out the window when it comes to weaknesses. If you have a superstar, the superstar will do everything for you. But even with Devin Booker leading the playoffs and scoring with over 35 points a game so far, they still had to account for the most important matchup of Nikola Jokic and DeAndre Ayton. Now remember, the two-time MVP Nikola Jokic just went against a really solid Minnesota defense, being anchored by the three-time DPOY Rudy Gobert and other pieces. And now we go from all of that to him just facing DeAndre Ayton in the paint. This was thought to be the matchup of the series, with the non-imposing defensively Ayton and the offensive genius Jokic. Of course, though, the Nuggets would have their hands full with D-Book, who was turned into a completely different player in the playoffs, and of course, one of the best small forwards of all time, Kevin Durant. But what the Nuggets have that the Suns did not is depth and a proven and consistent system. But as we all know, the predictions going against the Suns was absolutely just because of star power and star power alone, which is fine. But soon the NBA will know just how good Nikola Jokic can be with a fully healthy team. Starting off in game one, where the problems of the Suns were shown in full display, the Los Angeles Clippers, as we all know, was not able to take full advantage of the Suns' deficit as a team. But in the second round, the Nuggets were able to expose them immediately for it, winning by 18. And that was again due to their lack of a team and their lack of defense, allowing the Nuggets to score 125 points with three players scoring over 20, and Aaron Gordon, Jamal Murray, and Nikola Jokic with a near 20-point, 20-rebound game. And it wasn't like the Suns played bad, shooting over 50% as a team, but when you can't stop the other team from scoring either, it really comes down to who had the better game that day. Game two, however, was more of a dogfight between the two teams, and both of them didn't even reach 100 points, feeling more like an actual playoff game from the past. And it was highlighted by Nikola Jokic scoring a game-high 39 points and 16 rebounds, with the Phoenix Suns having zero answer for him.
39, 16, and 5. I know you're a huge Jokic guy. You have been the whole way. What did you see tonight in particular?
Well, you know what? I saw when it mattered the most, he wasn't waiting on nobody offensively. He answered every single call that Devin Booker and Kevin Durant threw at him on the other end. And when I think about Jokic and how he dominated the matchup with DeAndre Ayton, I mean, hell, DeAndre Ayton said that he has a Tesla-type battery. Look like he needs to switch over to a diesel engine because he got cooked tonight. But I'm more impressed about Jokic and his mentality and the way that he actually defended the pick and roll at times, actually sliding his feet, actually anchoring the defense. And I thought the defense was huge for the Nuggets because they didn't really have it going offensively, but to hold the Phoenix Suns to 87 points and hold Kevin Durant to 10 out of 27 shooting, that was phenomenal basketball to watch. That's playoff basketball.
But the questions everybody had for Jokic gets proven wrong once again. In the MVP debate with Embiid, it was the same talking points over and over again. Jokic can't defend, aim for Jokic, and you win. The absolute works. But Jokic absolutely proved everybody wrong with how he took the challenge to defend pick and rolls and ISO situations with other stars on the Suns. And with that, in his offensive game, he was awarded with a 2-0 series lead over the Suns and the full confidence that the Nuggets could finish out this series with 4 games won. But things took a wild swing in the next 2 games, with the Suns winning the next 2 games and building momentum. And people accounted that to the faster pace that the Suns played with due to Chris Paul's injury, as usual, to his groin in game 2 and campaign coming up and speeding up the offense. But something else that a lot of experts saw coming was the superstar effect coming through for KD and Devin Booker, with them combining for 86 points in game 3, winning by 7, avoiding the wrath of Jokic, getting a 30-17-17 triple-double, and Jamal Murray also scoring 30 himself. And in game 4, the Suns duo also avoided losing at home, combining for 72 points, but the story of that game was Nikola Jokic scoring 53 points on 20 of 30 shooting, making an absolute joke of the Suns defense and scoring the 7th most points ever scored in an NBA playoff game. But 2 games later, the narrative changed, with the Suns giving people hope that the Suns could shine their way through with their superstar duo.
Is Booker the biggest reason Phoenix was able to even this series?
Well, listen, I mean, I got to tell you, the biggest reason is sensational, as the light-skinned Mamba was. And that's what I call him right now, the light-skinned Mamba, because this brother is something special. Devin Booker is the real deal. This brother's something special. I got to give him a lot of love. I don't know any superlatives. I don't know what kind of demonstrative delivery or presentation I can give to give this brother his props. He deserves it. My God, he is something special. He really, really is. However, he's not the biggest reason the Suns have tied this series. The biggest reason is Chris Paul. He's not played. That's the biggest reason. Because if he were playing, chances are the pace would have been slower and Monty Williams would not have used his bench. And that would not, and Booker's heroics, along with Kevin Durant, would not have been enough. The fact of the matter is they came into game 3, the Phoenix Suns. Their bench was the worst of any team in the postseason, averaging just over 14 points a game as an entire bench. There were 50-plus players that were averaging more as individuals than Phoenix's bench, for crying out loud. But they outscored them 22-20 in game 3. And then you saw what Shaman did with his 19 points off the bench. You saw what Ross did. And as a result, the quickening of the pace led by Cameron Payne, along with contributions from Warren, from Shaman and others, off the bench, that has led to it. Now, does that mean that this team is better without CP3? Look, y'all, I'm not about to be drug tested. We're talking about the point guard himself, CP3. We know how elite he is. I'm saying if he had never gotten hurt, I don't think that Monty Williams would have made the decision to play his bench the way that he has. The fact that he has, I think, has gone a long way. It's quickened the pace. It's elevated their level of play. It's given Devin Booker and KD the support they need. And that's why this series is tied 2-2.
But as the Suns took over the series with this new strategy of speeding up the pace, utilizing their bench, and playing off their superstars, how will Jokic and the Nuggets respond back in Denver? With another triple-double with 29 points, 13 rebounds, and 12 assists, and shutting down the KD and D-Book duo as best as they could, barely allowing them to score over 100 points. But back that Phoenix, the Nuggets could either go down and knock out the Suns or face a Game 7 situation where all we know that the stars would come out and play. but the Nuggets had a new advantage to take use of. And unfortunately, but this is the playoffs, that was the new injury of DeAndre Ayton, who injured his ribs after colliding with Bruce Brown in the game before, further shrinking the options the Suns have for useful talent on the court. Now, it wasn't like Ayton was a real factor on the court, only averaging 10 points and 8 rebounds in that series, but you're going from Ayton to Bismack Biyombo and having G-Leaguer Jacques Landale playing backup minutes to him, putting more pressure on KD and D-Book to do more offensively. And the Denver Nuggets took advantage of that injury in the most satisfying way possible.
Thorough domination in the first 24 minutes, a 30-point lead for the Nuggets on the road as the Suns are rapidly setting in the West. Jalen Rose, I'm Mike Greenberg. Here's Stephen A. What do we say about Kevin Durant and the Phoenix Suns?
Well, what I will tell you, depending on what region that you're in the country, if you're in New York City, it's probably the Honeymooners. If you're someplace else, it's a comedy show. The Phoenix Suns might as well forfeit this game and just go home and watch it and tell everybody to do the same. That's the most entertainment they're going to get in that arena tonight. This is over. It's embarrassing. I forgot DeAndre Ayton was going to be injured, but the bottom line is it wouldn't have made much of a difference. Props to you. An absolutely pathetic, awful performance. They're outclassed. They're outmanned. They're out-physical. They're out-game plan. They just don't have anything going for them right now. And all we could do, looking at this Phoenix Suns, the second consecutive time, last year in the closeout game, they were down 30 to Dallas at the half. Today, they're about to go home for the season, down 30 at the half, both times on their home court. It's bad, man. And I mean, listen, they just gonna have changes next season.
You just seen the clip. The Suns were losing by 30 at halftime, getting absolutely spanked by the Nuggets the same way they were getting clapped by the Mavericks last year in the series clinching home game. And it happened in the same way, at home in front of the Phoenix faithful, and Devin Booker putting up a bad game, and now KD doing the same, combining for 6 of 23 from the field for 13 points. And by the end of the game, a message was sent. Jokic ended the game with another triple-double and beating the Suns by 25 at the Suns' home floor. This series was started with the narrative of the overpowered duo of D-Book and KD taking advantage of the entire series like they did against the Clippers, who without their two best players as a false sense of playoff superiority. But once they met a team who was fully healthy and ready for them, the tune of the media and fans alike changed as they met the Nuggets and Nikola Jokic, proving once again that all Jokic needed was a full team to go back to where he was 2 years ago in the conference finals. But ironically enough, as they beat the Suns, they would meet up with a very, very, very familiar foe and a familiar duo.
You're just under 30 hours away from the tip-off of the Western Conference Finals, and oh baby, I cannot wait. The Nuggets, the Lakers, it all goes down tomorrow. But before it gets underway, LeBron James, he spoke to reporters just moments ago.
What's the difference for you guys between a series, getting to figure out matchups and splitting how you're going to play versus just a regular season kind of?
It's just health. It's all boiled down to health with myself and AD in this franchise since we joined each other 5 years ago, or was it 4 years ago? 4 years ago. So it's always come down to health.
You have a familiar face with KCP in this series. What makes him an effective player, a winning player?
His energy. His energy is second to none. He plays at a high level every single game. His availability. He's always in uniform, and that's what separates him from a lot of guys in our league. He pretty much plays every game. And he's very experienced. So we know what we're going against when it comes to him. And he plays the game the right way.
You know, from 2020, Bron, you guys only have 2 active players left. When you met the Nuggets, they only have 3 rotational players. What's different about the Nuggets from that year?
They're better. But they were great then, and they're great now. But I think, Joker has gotten 2 more years under his belt. Jamal has gotten back to his regular form after the injury. And the rest of those guys have been playing exceptional basketball. So, they're really, 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 really good team.
How has Jokic evolved in the last couple of years, 3 years in his game, would you say?
He just continued to get better.
Beyond the obvious part, 4 wins to win a series. How do you feel like going to Memphis and winning a game, going to San Francisco and winning a game, help you out in the first 2 rounds? In one of those first 2 before you get back to crypto?
Every experience is different, so, Memphis and GS is behind us. Now our focus is on Denver, and we can't go into this series saying, okay, this is what we did last series or the series before that. that's water under the bridge. So our challenge is upon us tomorrow night, and we got to be ready for it.
Is the altitude real? Do you feel it, and how so?
It is real.
How does it impact you and others?
You get tired a lot faster than you would if you wasn't in it.
In the first quarter, or is it throughout the game?
It's pretty much in the first quarter, a little bit in the second. The good thing about a playoff series, you're here for a few days, so it's just like when you go from East Coast to West Coast and the time difference. You know, it makes you just sleep up for a couple days, but then you get adjusted to it.
Lebron, you've talked about kind of progressing through the different levels of the playoffs, level 1, level 2, level 3. But what's the biggest difference between level 3 and level 2 that you're trying to communicate to the guys?
Well, I mean, as hard as we thought level 2 was, it's going to be even harder, this round. And that doesn't take anything away from GS because that was, I know I've had my battles with that franchise, so I know how hard it is. But, as you continue to get up into the numbers, and like you said, level 3 is just a very difficult challenge. Both teams are, one step away from having an opportunity to play for what they started in the beginning of the year, and that's to play for the Larry O'Brien Trophy. So it becomes very challenging.
You guys have made a couple of big adjustments within the course of the series. Just wonder what it's been like with you and the coaching staff. You get in the film room. All right, this is what we saw on the floor in this game. How much of that are you and Darvin and the coaching staff going back and forth?
That's what it's all about. Being able to make adjustments in between games and within the game as well. Because you come into a series, everyone knows everyone. It's not like you come in with new offensive sets and new defensive sets and things of that nature and new personnel. It's the same personnel that's been there, but being able to make adjustments, timely adjustments within the game, in between games is very helpful to both, for our ball club.
Going up against Coach Malone.
Lonnie, first time in this setting. What's your message to the young guys that haven't been this far before?
A little close. Just enjoy it. I mean, have fun with it. And, at the end of the day, it's just basketball. It's basketball. Go out and play. We're all here for a reason. Obviously we got we got an opportunity to be great, and that's what we want to do. And we want to, showcase why we should be here in the West Conference Finals and go out and perform at a high level.
Going up against Coach Malone again.
You heard it, you know it, you love it. 2 years ago in the NBA bubble, the NBA Finals representative in the West was decided by the matchup of the Lakers and the Nuggets. But 2 years ago, these two teams were completely different. The Lakers in the 2020 bubble were the surging first seed of the West with an all-NBA duo of Anthony Davis and LeBron James, and also owning the tallest starting lineup in the NBA with AD at power forward and LeBron James starting at the point guard spot. This team was dominant for so many reasons, owning one of the best defenses in the NBA, and of course being backed by the dominance of Anthony Davis torching defenses and LeBron James still basically being in his prime. While the Nuggets were still finding themselves coming back from 2-3-1 deficits from the Jazz and the Clippers, now making it to the conference finals as a young and exciting team. However, if you look at their starting lineup, you can see things were very much different, starting Jeremy Grant and now retired Paul Millsap and Gary Harris. But after a very convincing 5-game series that included a game winner from Anthony Davis and LeBron James and AD, combining for an average of 58 points a game, you have a very much deserved NBA Finals representative from the West and, of course, NBA champions. But 2 years later, things are now very much different, with the Nuggets being the stronger team, adding Aaron Gordon 2 seasons ago to be an upgrade over Paul Millsap, getting him from Orlando where you could argue he was wasting his career away, adding the former Laker KCP, who was very much underappreciated in LA and now joining the Nuggets after a trade last summer to be Gary Harris' replacement, and now of course Michael Porter Jr. improving into a solid scoring option and a starting small forward. And of course, Bruce Brown being a spark plug that they needed desperately off the bench. While for the Lakers, since their last matchup, things have looked very grim with a lot of injuries from AD and LeBron, a lot of interesting moves that was made to more of a detriment than an improvement, and now an amazing trade deadline getting very much needed help around AD and LeBron. The Lakers now are making a realistic Cinderella run, making a joke of the second-seeded Grizzlies, and of course an interesting 6 games with the defending champions Golden State Warriors. So now we have a Western Conference matchup rematch, but with way different circumstances than the last time they went against each other, with this time the Nuggets looking to have the advantage. And the experts agreed all over ESPN with the vote vote for the Nuggets to beat the Lakers in a vote of 11-6, and with most of them predicting it would either go to a 6 or 7 game series either way. And I don't blame them. Anthony Davis was looking like the DPOY of the playoffs, averaging 3 blocks a game with also a steal, and while also being the leading scorer of the Lakers, and other members of the Lakers being great help all around, like Rui Hachimura's bench presence, Austin Reeves' spark plug-like abilities, and of course, LeBron James still creating magic in year 20. But what everyone was expecting did not turn into a reality, but it was also a message that was sent to the league the same way the Lakers did to the Nuggets only 2 years ago. So we moved to Game 1 in Denver, and it turned into what people expected to be a preview matchup of the series. Jokic versus Anthony Davis. Jokic once again gets another triple-double, going for 34 points, 21 rebounds, and 14 assists, his 6th of the playoffs. But on the other side was exactly what people considered to be Jokic's kryptonite. Anthony Davis's athleticism and length taking over the Denver defense with a game high of 40 points. Anthony Davis may have only played 54 games this season and had been dealing with injuries for the last 3 years, but in this playoffs, he was looking like he was back in his prime form like he was in the 2020 season. And everybody was watching just to see how this matchup would turn out against the fundamental and skilled Jokic versus the defensive menace and athletic Anthony Davis. However, it was not just him who won this game, which ended 132-126. Jamal Murray also scored 30 plus, and KCP in his revenge series scored 21 points and called his own number a lot. And moving on to Game 2, we see another main component in the series that will define this matchup: Anthony Davis's inconsistencies. It's unfortunate how I make a joke of it, but it was pretty true to form how Anthony Davis would play amazing in odd games during the playoffs, but mid and even games. But this also accounts for his horrible inconsistencies as a player at times, and it shows up once again in Game 2 with AD going 4 of 15 from the field for 18 points and being dead last in his team's blocks plus minus with a -10. While Nikola Jokic knew what he had in this matchup and took total advantage of it, going for another triple-double in the game, comeback win with 23 points, 17 rebounds, and 12 assists, and the game being highlighted by the 23-point fourth quarter by Jamal Murray after going 5 of 17 through the first 3 quarters and bringing the Nuggets over the Lakers for the 2-0 series lead. But at the same time, brings a new achievement in Nikola Jokic's playoff resume this postseason, tying Wilt Chamberlain's playoff record for the most triple-doubles in a postseason with 7, and still having plenty of more time to beat the actual record. And once again, in the regular season, his dominance and efficiency was compared to Wilt Chamberlain, so it's very fitting how he was going for this record, or at least just getting it naturally. Anyways, in Game 3 with another W with Denver leading for all but 2 minutes, almost blowing a 14-point lead, however, we are now about to see something no one thought was possible or even imagined: a potential sweep of the Los Angeles Lakers, the surprise team of the Western Conference playoffs. So now, with the Lakers back against the wall with a 3-0 deficit to make up for, how will they respond? Well, in Game 4 of the Western Conference Finals, we see another example of LeBron James turning back the clock at his old basketball age of 38, getting 21 points in the first quarter, quite literally the first time he's ever done that in his long career in the NBA, to go up 28-34, and then 10 more in the second quarter to lead the Nuggets 58-73. This is the Lakers team everybody's been waiting for. However, it was mostly manned by LeBron James having an all-time level first half and not much help coming from anyone else, especially Anthony Davis, again, with 2 of 7 shooting from the field. My thoughts exactly is that LeBron James will have to slow down eventually to give up this 15-point third quarter lead, and that's exactly what ended up happening in this game. The weak foundation of the Lakers reared its ugly head once again, only scoring 16 points as a team in the third quarter, with the team shooting 7 of 24, while the Nuggets were led by Nikola Jokic's 13 points and 10 rebounds in the third quarter alone. And now, after the third, we have a 5-point Nuggets lead and only 12 minutes away from their first ever finals appearance from the Denver Nuggets in franchise history. And with the fourth quarter coming up, everyone's thoughts about the Lakers came back to fruition. LeBron James at 38 cannot lead his team to the promised land like he used to, and if they were going to win this game, it would have to be because of Anthony Davis. And with Anthony Davis getting 10 fourth quarter points, LeBron James, unfortunately, would shoot 1 of 6 from the quarter for 3 points, and it showed exactly how LeBron may still be a top player in the league in some people's eyes, but he is not anywhere near the same as the player he used to be in the past. And we would all be shown this on national television as LeBron James would go for a wild shot with 31 seconds left, hitting the side of the backboard down 2 points on Aaron Gordon, and then the very next play, with time running down, getting blocked by Aaron Gordon to tie the game, which then ends the unexpected sweep of the conference finals and sending the Denver Nuggets to their first ever finals appearance in franchise history. And also at the same time, Nikola Jokic passes Wilt Chamberlain, earning the most triple-doubles in a playoff run with 8, and the same game with 30 points, 14 rebounds, 13 assists, and at the same time getting 3 blocks and 3 steals. And guess what? All 3 of those blocks were on Anthony Davis, limiting his impact in the series, clinching game. But this finals appearance is accumulation of many things: pain, adversity, doubt by legit everyone, and now they'll be able to be the team who everyone has to pass by to win anything for years to come. So now we are in the NBA Finals. After a well-needed and deserved 9-day break, the NBA Finals matchup that we ended up getting ends up being very poetic to a lot of people. The first-seeded Nuggets, who proved to the world they are no joke, with a player who is proving in front of everyone watching that he was deserving of his 2 MVPs, deserving of his top 3 NBA status, and deserving of everyone's respect to anyone who doubted them. And for their reward, going against the Miami Heat, who are manned by Jimmy Butler, who made a spectacular run to the finals, beating the Bucks in the first round, becoming the 6th A seed to ever beat a 1 seed, beating the Knicks in a 6-game dogfight, and almost blowing a 3-0 lead to the Celtics in another nail-biter of a series. But the Heat are not a team to underestimate, dealing with injuries from Tyler Hero and Victor Oladipo, thriving on a next-up basis and having big surprises in the playoffs like Caleb Martin, who nearly won the Eastern Conference Finals MVP. However, for as bittersweet as people thought it was going to be with Jokic potentially being an 8th seed and not another team worthy of making the finals who may have stand a better chance, unfortunately, the NBA is a make or miss league. The Celtics had multiple opportunities in clutch situations to change their fate in the conference finals. Harrison Barnes could have ended the Sacramento series in 6 games, and the 76ers needed 2-game winners from James Harden to even compete with the Celtics. You take what you can get in the NBA playoffs. But as the experts at NBA voted, the prediction for the Nuggets and Heat series, what ended up being in the Nuggets' favor in a tally of 12-4, and predicted it would be a 6 to 7 game series, still giving the Heat a lot of credit to at least make things competitive against the 2-time MVP, Nikola Jokic. But as the finale of the NBA season is now coming to a climax, the question remains the same. How do you stop the dynamic play of Nikola Jokic and the Nuggets' EuroLeague style offense as the Miami Heat? Well, in game 1 of the NBA Finals, the Heat absolutely had 0 ways to do it. Double teaming didn't work. Letting go one-on-one with Bam didn't work. And letting his other teammates get hot, bad idea. And with that, gave Nikola Jokic a double-double with assists in the first half alone, Jamal Murray leading all scorers at 18, and the Nuggets garnering a 17-point lead at the half, already showing that stopping this team will require a lot of creativity, or honestly, just luck, only losing 3 games this entire postseason so far. And with the Nuggets winning by 11, having at most a 24-point lead, NBA viewers around the world had a good idea of how this series would go. Jokic with his 9th triple-double, Jamal Murray with a double-double, and the Heat scrambling to even have a consistent scoring option. They tried using Bam to abuse Jokic's perceived slowness, but going 13 to 25 for 26 points, we knew if Bam couldn't even abuse Nikola Jokic, then that matchup would have been a wash real fast. But even Jimmy Butler wasn't in takeover mode like he was earlier in the playoffs, only getting a lowly 13 points. But the Heat in game 2 showed the reason they made it to the finals in the first place: perseverance. Down 10 in the 4th quarter, they was able to make a comeback started by Duncan Robinson, scoring 8 straight points, which started a comeback for them to win game 2, while at the same time avoiding to Jokic a monster 41-point game and Jamal Murray almost tying the game with a 3 at the end of regulation. But people still won't worry for the Nuggets, with the Heat shooting nearly 50% of their threes in game 2. And they need to do that 4 times to win the finals, not being able to stop the Denver Nuggets offense that gave them the best offensive rating in the playoffs that year, which was proven in game 3, allowing Denver to lead for most of the game, manned by Nikola Jokic's 10th triple-double and one of the best we've seen, with 32 points, 20 rebounds, and 10 assists, with his teammate Jamal Murray also garnering one of his own, becoming the first pair of teammates to get 30-point triple-doubles in the NBA playoffs. In game 4, same unfortunate story for the Miami Heat. Miami only led the game for a minute of the game entirely, allowed another triple-double for Nikola Jokic, and now Aaron Aaron Gordon joins the party to abuse the Heat's defense, scoring a game high and playoff high 27 points, and Bruce Brown, one of the best sixth men of the entire playoffs, scoring 21 off the bench. Overall, a lot of people had this series predicted to a T. The Nuggets personnel was just that much better than the Heat, barely even struggling in the Western Conference alone. It could have potentially even swept the Heat in the finals if it wasn't for that Game 2 collapse. But now in Game 5, we have another Nikola Jokic legacy game. At halftime of Game 5, the score was 51-44 Miami. Bam Adebayo scored 18 first half points, playing his best basketball of the series. The Denver Nuggets turned over the ball 9 times, and Nikola Jokic and his main teammates and Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray all were in foul trouble. It was so bad at one point that DeAndre Jordan had to come in and play spot minutes due to foul trouble. But in the third quarter is where you saw a big shift in the team. Nikola in the third quarter scored 9 points, coming back as much as 8, with other contributions from Michael Porter Jr., who finally showed up in the series and slowly started bringing back Bam back to form, with him going 1 of 5 in that quarter. And only down 1 point going into the fourth is where we saw the Denver Nuggets' chance to end this series come down to one simple 12-minute sequence. Offensively, it may have been a struggle, but if they can hold out for 12 more minutes, they'll be a city of champions. And with Nikola Jokic scoring 10 points in that quarter and Jimmy Butler throwing a turnover to Kentavious Caldwell-Pope with a few seconds left in the game, the Denver Nuggets become NBA champions after 45 years of being a franchise for the first time in its history. And this championship came with a collection of things: doubt from the media and NBA fans alike, pain and suffering from the injuries dealt to them with Jamal Murray and Michael Porter Jr., growth from Jokic, who learned how to lead a team in desperate situations for 2 straight years, and the resurgence of a team who retooled and proved to everyone wrong that the Denver Nuggets, and most importantly, Nikola Jokic, is here to stay and coming for another championship. So with that ends one of the best individual finals runs and playoff runs we have ever seen from an NBA player ever, and it's pretty hard to deny. And again, with this finals MVP and championship Nikola Jokic just won, it proves many things to the NBA world. Nikola Jokic being the most valuable player is undeniable as the heart and soul of the Nuggets, posting stats and efficiency we have never seen from a player from our modern age. The Denver Nuggets were legit since the bubble and could have won a ring earlier if it wasn't for Jamal Murray's ACL giving out and MPJ's injury this season after. Jokic officially is in contention for one of the best NBA players we've ever seen, and of course one of the best offensive players of all time and centers of all time. And most importantly, Nikola Jokic now deserves your respect, and be ready to continue to watch one of the best players we've ever witnessed come through the NBA, because he's only 28. Leave your thoughts in the comments, and until next season.